When I opened my phone that night, I almost dropped it. The notification from my new home security camera said, "Motion detected in the living room, 2:13 a.m." I was staying at my friend Alex's apartment across town. There was no one at home, but when I tapped the live feed, I froze. On the screen, I saw myself. I was lying on my couch, asleep, wearing the same clothes I had on the night before. My chest was rising and falling. My phone slipped from my hand and hit the floor. I blinked, thinking maybe it was an old recording, but the timestamp was live. I watched the screen in disbelief as I shifted slightly on the couch. My arm fell over the side, just like I always sleep. Then the version of me on the screen opened its eyes, stared right into the camera, and smiled. I gasped and dropped the phone. Alex asked what was wrong, but I couldn't speak. My mouth felt dry, my chest tight. I picked the phone back up. My reflection on the screen was gone. The couch was empty. My living room light flickered once, then the camera feed cut off. For a full minute, I sat there staring at the frozen screen, my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. Finally, I whispered, "That wasn't me." And deep down, I knew it wasn't a dream. I moved into my new house 3 weeks ago. It wasn't big, just a one-bedroom place on the edge of a quiet neighborhood in upstate New York. The realtor told me it had been empty for almost 2 years. Previous owner moved out suddenly, she said with a shrug. The house seemed normal enough, old wooden floors, creaky doors, the usual charm of a fixer-upper. But from my very first night there, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone had been in that house before me, and never really left. It started small. The sound of footsteps when I was in the shower. Soft thuds above my room, even though the attic was supposed to be sealed. I blamed the noises on the old pipes and wooden beams. I didn't want to seem paranoid. Still, I bought a few smart home devices, including a new Wi-Fi camera for the living room. It gave me a sense of control, like I could finally see what was happening when I wasn't around. The first few nights were uneventful. No alerts, no strange sounds. I even joked with Alex about my ghost paranoia. But last Friday, when I came home from work, something small but chilling caught my attention. My couch cushion was flipped upside down. I always kept the tags facing out because I hated the look of them. I brushed it off, assuming I must have done it without thinking. Then I noticed the faint smell of cigarette smoke in the air. I don't smoke. That night, I decided to leave the camera on while I slept. I set my phone to alert me if it detected movement. Around 1 a.m., I woke up to a soft click. The sound came from my living room. I grabbed a flashlight and crept out of bed. The red recording light on the camera was flashing. My reflection in the dark window looked pale, almost ghostly. Nothing else seemed out of place, so I went back to bed, forcing myself to believe the noise was just the camera's night vision turning on. The next day, I checked the footage. Nothing unusual, until the very end. Around 2:15 a.m., my bedroom door opened slightly, even though I remembered locking it. A figure stepped halfway into the frame. It wasn't clear, just a shadow. But the shape of the head, the shoulders, it looked exactly like me. My stomach dropped. I tried to pause the video, but the app froze. When it restarted, that entire clip had vanished. I didn't tell Alex right away. He'd already said I was freaking myself out. But after the live alert that showed me sleeping while I was away, I couldn't pretend anymore. We decided to drive to my house together. The roads were quiet, and the trees lining the sides of the highway swayed like they were whispering secrets. The whole way there, I kept staring at the live feed. It stayed black, showing only the faint reflection of the camera's own red light. When we arrived, everything looked normal. The door was locked, the windows shut, but the air felt thick, heavy, almost like the moment before a storm. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. My couch cushion was back in place, my coffee mug on the table, but something small had changed. On the wall above the TV, written faintly in what looked like ash, were 3 words. "Stay asleep, Ben." Alex thought it was a prank. Maybe someone had hacked my camera. We even called the company's tech support, who confirmed there was no record of unusual activity. But when I asked if anyone else could access my feed, the woman hesitated before saying, "Only the primary user, unless your camera was synced to a local backup device." I didn't own a backup. I should have packed my things that night. I should have left the house and never looked back. But fear makes you stupid. You convince yourself that nothing is wrong because the truth is too terrifying to face. So I stayed. That evening, I turned every light on in the house. I sat in the living room with my phone connected to the camera, watching the feed loop over and over. The time ticked past midnight. The house groaned like it was breathing. I must have dozed off, because when I opened my eyes, it was 2:04 a.m. My phone buzzed beside me. Motion detected in the bedroom. I slowly lifted the phone, my fingers shaking. The live feed loaded. My bed was visible through the camera's wide lens. And there, under the covers, was me, sleeping peacefully. I was watching myself again. But this time, the me in bed slowly sat up, turned its head toward the camera, and whispered something I couldn't hear. The video glitched. Then, in the background of the feed, a faint reflection appeared in the mirror beside the bed. Someone, or something, was standing behind the camera. I dropped my phone and turned toward the hallway. The lights flickered. The bedroom door creaked open on its own. And then I heard a voice, my voice, say softly from inside the dark room, "You shouldn't have come back." The screen on my phone lit up again with one final notification before the battery died. New user connected, device name, Ben_2. I didn't remember falling asleep, but when I opened my eyes, the sun was streaming faintly through the blinds. My phone was lying on the floor beside me, screen cracked, dead. For a few seconds, I couldn't tell if what happened last night was real, or just a dream twisted by paranoia. Then I noticed the door. It was wide open. I never leave it open. My head pounded as I got up, trying to convince myself it was just exhaustion, or stress. But something about the air in the house felt wrong, thicker, like it was filled with dust or static. I walked slowly toward my bedroom. The bed was perfectly made. Sheets tucked, pillows fluffed. I never made it like that. I backed away. My heart was racing, but I couldn't stop looking at the walls, the floor, the corners, like I was being watched. I plugged my phone in and waited for it to turn on. When it did, the camera app opened automatically, showing a live feed that wasn't mine. It was a new angle, one I hadn't set up. It showed the basement. My house didn't have a basement. I stared at the screen, confused, until I saw a stairwell descending into darkness. At the bottom of the stairs, a figure was standing still, facing the camera. Even with the poor lighting, I could make out the shape of its face. It looked exactly like me. I dropped the phone again. My pulse was hammering. Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but my body wouldn't move. Finally, I forced myself to grab my keys and run toward the front door. When I opened it, the morning light hit me like a slap. I didn't even look back. I got into my car and drove straight to Alex's place. When I told him what I saw, he didn't laugh this time. He looked pale, his eyes wide. "Ben," he said slowly, "are you sure your house doesn't have a basement? Maybe there's an old storage cellar or something." I told him no, I'd checked the blueprints. The realtor never mentioned one. Still, Alex insisted on going back with me. "We'll check it out together," he said. "If there's something weird, we'll find it." I didn't want to, but I didn't want to be alone either. We drove back that evening, and as soon as we stepped inside, I knew something had changed. The air was colder, and the faint smell of cigarette smoke was stronger. We searched every inch of the house. Nothing seemed out of place, until we reached the hallway near the kitchen. Behind a set of old paint cans, we found a small door I swear hadn't been there before. The frame was crooked, and the handle was rusted. When I pulled it open, a wave of cold air hit us. A narrow staircase spiraled down into complete darkness. Alex turned on his phone flashlight and stepped forward. "Maybe it's just a crawl space," he said. But the deeper we went, the less it felt like a part of the house. The walls weren't wood, they were stone, damp and old. The smell down there was awful, like mold and iron. At the bottom of the stairs was a single, dim light bulb hanging from the ceiling. Under it stood an old metal bed frame. And on that bed was a thin, gray blanket covering what looked like a person. I called out, "Hello." My voice echoed. The shape on the bed didn't move. I reached out, my fingers trembling, and pulled the blanket back. It wasn't a person. It was a mannequin, but its face was painted exactly like mine. Same eyes, same nose, same scars. And on its chest was a phone. My phone. The same one I had dropped upstairs. Alex swore and backed away. "Ben, let's go. Now." But before we could move, the light bulb flickered, then went out completely. We were surrounded by pitch-black darkness. I fumbled for my phone, trying to turn on the flashlight. That's when I heard it, a whisper right beside my ear. "You came back." I spun around, shining the light wildly. The stairs behind us were gone. The stone walls seemed to stretch endlessly in every direction. Then the voice came again. deeper this time. You should have stayed asleep. I ran. I don't even remember where I went, but I kept running, hands scraping against rough walls, heart pounding in my throat. I could hear footsteps following us. 2 sets, then 3, then more. The echoes grew louder, closer. Alex screamed my name. I turned the light behind us, just for a second, and saw dozens of faces in the dark. All of them mine. We found the stairs by pure chance, bursting through the narrow door and slamming it shut behind us. We didn't stop running until we were outside, gasping in the cold night air. Alex was shaking so hard he dropped his phone. I looked down and saw that his screen was still recording. The live feed showed the basement door, still shut, but something was moving behind it. A shadow pressed against the wood from the other side, then slowly pulled away. We drove straight to a motel that night. Neither of us spoke much. I kept checking my phone, but every time I tried to delete the camera app, it reopened by itself. Around 3 a.m., I got another alert. Motion detected. This time, it wasn't from the house. It was from the motel room. The feed showed me lying in bed, sleeping. But when I turned to look at the other bed beside me, it was empty. Alex was gone. I stared at the phone, my stomach turning to ice. The version of me on the screen opened its eyes and whispered, "Don't wake up.